I rise with your leave to present and to have read for the second time the bill entitled The Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis, Tenure of the Office of the Prime Minister, Amendment Bill 2019. This bill, Mr. Speaker, is a very short one by the standard size of legislation, but it is one of the most significant pieces of legislation to be brought to the Parliament since independence. It is one of those bills, Mr. Speaker, which, as you just outlined, requires a special majority as defined by Section 38, subsection 2 of the Constitution. This bill is an historic one. It is an historic bill because it represents the first real attempt to bring constitutional change since the Independence Constitution Order of 1983. Many before us have talked about constitutional reform, and they did nothing, not even when they had a sufficiency of representatives to effect constitutional change. Today, Team Unity makes history in being the first to actually propose real and substantive change to the Constitution of 1983. This is an historic bill because today the smallest country, indeed the smallest nation state in the Americas, is leading on fundamental matters of governance, the tenure of office of the head of government. And we in St. Kitts and Nevis should be very pleased by this development. We should, as proud citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, with allegiance to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as a whole, and to no other state, join together and support the bill before the House. We can then say that this bill became law because all of us look beyond the prison of party confines to see the virtues of the bill and its efficacy in the context of building a better St. Kitts and Nevis. Already this bill has drawn regional and international attention. Yesterday morning, for example, I was interviewed by two media personalities from Jamaica who expressed amazement that a sitting government would seek to limit the tenure of the Prime Minister. They opine that usually it is the opposition who asks for such changes, and usually when they get to government, they never execute at that mandate. One may deduce from that in their view, it would only be a backward opposition that would waver on this fundamental leap in the good governance agenda that we are attempting to make on this historic day. I explained to the media personalities that we are bringing the bill in keeping with the transformational agenda that gave birth to Team Unity. And it is that transformational agenda that has kept Team Unity safely and securely together for these 5 years. We are bringing it because we in Team Unity give meaning, substance to our word. And our word to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis is our bond. That transformational agenda of good governance and prosperity for all received the full endorsement of an electorate that was convinced that the former administration had outlived its useful life and was out of touch with the soul of the nation, the ethos of what ought to be an evolving participatory democracy. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis have already voted on this. This was fundamental to the good governance agenda which we articulated way back in 2015 and before 2015 in the alleyways. We propose it. The people have already voted on it. It is now time for the members of Parliament to support the people by giving consent to this bill, which is deserving of their fullest support and commendation. We ask for the full support of this legislation, enlightened, postmodern, futuristic as it is, because the people of St. Kitts and Nevis deserve it now as they will deserve it in the future. What does the bill say? The bill says, and I quote from the bill itself, that it is a bill to amend the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis to limit the term of the office of the Prime Minister and for related matters. Whereas the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis is set out in Schedule 1 of this document, referred to as the Constitution Order of 1983. And whereas under Section 52 of the schedule, the Constitution, there shall be a Prime Minister who shall be the representative who appears, in this case, appears to the Governor General to command the support of the majority of the representatives and who shall be appointed by the Governor General. It says, whereas pursuant to Section 38, subsection 2 of the Constitution, a bill to alter Section 52 of the Constitution shall not be regarded as having been passed by the National Assembly unless on its final reading the bill is supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of the representatives. Now, therefore, be it enacted by the Queen's most excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis, and by the authority of the same, as follows. Goes on to speak to the title of the bill, which we have read before. Interpretation. The Constitution means the St. Christopher and Nevis Constitution, which is set out in Schedule 1 to the Constitutional Order, or the Constitution Order 1983. Constitution Order means the St. Christopher and Nevis Constitution Order. Amendment of Section 2. This is the important part. Notwithstanding subsection 52, subsection 2, a representative shall not hold office as Prime Minister for more than 2 terms, whether or not served consecutively. And in Section B, it says, that is 2A, subsection 2, subsection B. In this section, a term refers to the period provided for in Section 31 of the Constitution. So it's not a very lengthy bill, but it is a weighty bill in terms of its import and in terms of the ability to take us forward. Why are we attempting to make this transformation? Why are we contemplating that a new era of governance is important to St. Kitts and Nevis? Why did we as a team of diverse political parties come together and from the very outset, not since coming to office, determine that for the good health of the democracy, for the good life of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, it was important that we bring a tenure restriction and how long a prime minister, a head of government, can serve. Clearly, there were examples, not necessarily from the Caribbean, which we could have looked at. We could have looked to the great United States of America, long regarded as the beacon of democracy, where there was a term limit. Term limit, 2 terms, Obama gone. 2 terms, Bush gone. That is how it is. And in their view, that was healthy to participatory democracy. In their view, it allowed a breath of fresh air to come into the body politic and to take America higher in its call to greatness. That is how they conceived it. But they were not alone. Elsewhere, if you go to the list of jurisdictions in Europe, in the Americas, we see too that country after country have brought in a restriction and the ability of the head of government to continue for life. Of course, we see the inverse of that. We see in Zimbabwe, President Mugabe, he was a leader for life until he got thrown out. We see in Libya, there was a Gaddafi, he was leader for life until he got thrown out. And we ask ourselves, which of these models of governance are better, appeal to us as a people, that we would want to do some adaptation of them? Do we want a leader for life so that our country can go to the depths of Robert Mugabe's Zimbabwe to become a failed state? Or we want something much more appealing and uplifting that give all people an opportunity and a chance? Perhaps closer home, we could have looked to the example in CARICOM of Guyana, where they have restricted the service of their president, who is a head of government and head of state, to a period of not more than 2 terms. And the coming into being of that provision in the Constitution of Guyana has helped Guyana move forward from a dark period of democracy in Guyana. And we have seen, notwithstanding the difficulties from time to time, that tenure in office certainly has been a helpful inducement to a quality of democracy of which we can all be proud. We certainly could look to the example of Belize, a member of CARICOM, which as far back as 2008 passed the legislation which became an act in 2010, 2 years later. Yesterday we had a discussion about that. When do things come in effect? In the example of Belize, 2008 passed, 2010 was the date of effectiveness. In their case, they said 3 terms and then say goodbye, 3 terms and then say goodbye. In our own context of St. Kitts and Nevis, we know how much trouble has come our way when a leader overstays his time. We have, over the last 25 years, if you will, watched and see that something could start good and end up spoiled. Something could start with a leap of faith, embodying a spirit of vitality of a nation, and that could get eclipsed if a leader overstays his time. This is what this bill is attempting to do. This bill is attempting to put our democracy on a more healthy path more resilient, more stable, more accountable. That is what this legislation is intended to do. If you have this legislation, then no leader could be 10 men in one. It may well be the first among equal, but never 10 men in one, because there's a finite life to that stewardship and leadership. Yes, with this model, we come and take into account how power can get to the head of a man. So much so that the people of the country have in repose again confidence in a party. This arrogant leader could go off to meet Gaddafi without swearing in a cabinet. Imagine. A leader runs away for nigh a week after a general election in the country and does not name a cabinet. The country then remains leaderless. And when our people become shocked at this foolhardy behavior, we are told, well, you know, we could run the country from a BlackBerry. So they stay in a hotel room, as it were, with Gaddafi. And then they says, if you want me, call me on the BlackBerry. But there are no minister responsible anymore. For the parliament has been dissolved. For a new prime minister has conveniently assumed office. A new cabinet begs to take over the governance of the country. 1 week gone, nobody there. Call me on the BlackBerry phone, and if Gaddafi allowed me to take the call, I will answer. That happens in real terms when you think that you are the leader for life. We saw over the last 25 years the arrogance, the way in which the leader disrespected the country, the people, and everyone. We saw the debasement of this parliament and the disrespect of its members when a former prime minister said, take out the member for number 8 like a common criminal from this parliament. We know when leadership matters, and we know when we have a leadership crisis. Wonder in the boots. We saw the coarseness and the diminution of the parliamentary debate when a former prime minister said in this house, from this side of the house, a hog they be. That is what the citizens of the country had become in their own estimation. This is the context. This is the lived reality of the people which begs out for a new agenda and a new program. We see what happens when we have a leader there too long and has become insecure, that he would neither listen to the people nor the parliament. So for 26 months, Mr. Speaker, 26 months, the motion of no confidence will never see the daylight. Over $10 million of taxpayers' money squandered with lawyers to defend the indefensible. Table the motion of no confidence. Let the people's representative have their say. And if you don't want to do that, go to the people. If you're so strong, go to the people and test it with the people. Bypass the representative, because that is what the Constitution said then and says no. If you are faced with a motion of no confidence and it succeeds, you must within 3 days inform the Governor General whether you intend to resign or you'll go back to the people for vindication. For 26 months, what had been the pattern established in the Westminster model was destroyed by a leader that had lost focus, certainly had been there for too long. Too long it was that we had the shame and ignominy in the country when on the 16th of January, I think it was 2015, an arrogant and insecure leader would seek, Mr. Speaker, to rush through ill-conceived boundary changes and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is what it was. Within 5 minutes of the Boundaries Commission having completed their work, that leader mandated that the parliament be convened, gave members of the opposition then less than 5 minutes notice. For the first time in the history of the parliament, for 20 years nigh before us, the parliament was untied because they had their plan. They had their plan. And when a leader has overstayed, you come to go to the parliament. The parliament is barricaded by security forces on top of the government headquarters, ready to shoot, to kill. When you came to the parliament, as we did, we couldn't even get through the entrance of the parliament. We know that wasn't democracy at work. This was a dictatorship. Razor-sharp wire, barricaded Church Street. Lest we forget, leaders then had become distant from the people. No connection with the soul, the expectation, the morality of the country. That is what happens when a leader overstays his welcome. And so it is important for us, as we reflect on that context that has brought us here, to ensure that never again our people is subjected to that. Never again must our parliament be cordoned off with sharp barbed wire from Central Street down to the Siheli's property. Never again must they tell us that we can't go across Princess Street because they want to rush to a boundary on a Friday afternoon. Never again must a leader come on the step of our headquarters and say, I have outsmarted them. I have gotten this matter, and I have accordingly dissolved the parliament instead. Never again in our political life must we face the situation where members, an election is called. Members show up on nomination day, and you don't know which constituency you're in. Jury not sure whether he's in 8 or 7 or he in 1. They gave us 2 forms to sign. 2 forms, just in case the leader had let down the country because his time had passed and no one was capable of telling that leader, your time was up. He had become like the emperor without clothes. People laugh at the emperor, and the emperor no. Until a little boy said, that are the emperor clothes. Little boy. What? The shame and ignominy to light. Emperor didn't know that he was not well dressed. The behavior in this parliament, time after time, reflected the absence of ethical leadership. And you know, the member for number 8, he raised the point An interesting but truthful point, and he don't know how true it was. Because in a past life, on Easter of 2012, Dr. Neville Duncan, political scientist, was brought into St. Kitts by the Labour Party to do a retreat. It so happened that there was a tragedy in that a number of young fellas had attempted to go over Nevis on a party, and several of them fell victim. Fatal accident. One who died was a nephew of mine. So I didn't go to this retreat. But when I came back, I asked Dr. Duncan, how did the retreat go? He said it was remarkable. I said, well, you all get you early. What was remarkable about it? He said, what was remarkable was that the leader of your party told me it was a discussion about succession planning in 2012. And he told the facilitator, I prefer to die in my boots than to consider succession planning. That was a mindset of the leadership then. How then would be surprised to hear that rather than wanting to move the country forward, one man remains wedded to the view that he should die in his boots. Mugabe was saying that too. Gaddafi was saying that too. Be careful what we wish for. Saddam was saying that too. We have to move away from the sense that we are to be deified because of our position. It all had become about him. Preferred to die in his boots. Dr. Duncan went on. He did a long paper, of which as party chair I'm a beneficiary, outlined the steps for succession planning. You had a meeting about succession planning, and the leader says, well, we're not going to wait on Dr. Duncan, We could get on with this succession planning. And you know what we will do? Let us start at the constituency. I wanted to show out some people, but he couldn't show me out, got me too strong. And so he said, but if my constituents nominate me to be the leader, I'll say to you that I will lead the party again. There'll be no succession planning at the national level. What sense was that? What sense was that? When my old teacher Ed Mead conveyed that in my presence in his office to Dr. Duncan, Dr. Duncan said, I will not come back to St. Kitts to do any follow-up to the retreat. You all don't want another retreat. It's advance you have to make now. You have to go forward. Clearly, we couldn't go back. Today, once and for all, we are taking an advance in the process of democracy, in the process of quality leadership, in the process of ensuring enlightened leadership for the country, to ensuring that the generation now and the generation after have a chance for self-actualization and fulfillment. This is what this legislation is about. Start from point one. I have a finite time to set my legacy, to get my house in order, to be focused on the delivery of the programs of the people. That is what this bit of legislation will do. This says that for St. Kitts and Nevis, it must always be about servant leadership. We must always have in our bosom, it is about the people. Not so much about us. Not so much about us. We are an instrument for delivery. This is what we want. And this is what Team Unity went all over. In St. Paul's, in Old Road, in George Street, in Tabernacle, in Phillips, in Nevis, in Charlestown, in Cox Hill, all over the place. Canvassing and saying to the people who are looking for an option, we can present that option. Yes, it is not a new idea, but it is new to St. Kitts and Nevis. It is new to the OECS. It is new relatively to the region. It is new, but it is worthy of our attention, and that is why we have brought it. That is what we have brought it. Everything else can get lost if the leadership is deficient, if the leadership is not ready, if the leadership is not compassionate, and if the leadership is not in tune. So this is what this historic bill is about, Mr. Speaker, my fellow citizens and residents. It is about limiting the tenure of the holder of the office of the Prime Minister to 2 terms. It is an important reform. It stops the office from becoming a plaything, as it was before us, of one individual who proudly told the world, I am 10 men in one. Nobody else matter but me. I am 10 men in one. Yes, the role of the Prime Minister is central to our nation, and it is being given primacy, if you will, in the constitutional layout and provisions regarding the executive. He is entrusted with special privilege and prerogatives to name and to disappoint, to name the permanent secretaries, for example. That's the constitutional remit. To appoint such commissions as he sees fit in his own deliberate wisdom or lack thereof. That is within his purview. And some people have said, well, there are too many. Of course, the founding fathers have always thought that they were necessary to the fulfillment of the role, and for there to be, at least on the books, a semblance of what makes it first among equal. Yes, it is important that those who want to be the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis must do so because of what they think they can give to our country. Want to be Prime Minister because I think I could do a better job. I want to be the Prime Minister because when I look at my skill set and my experience, I know I could add value to the young, to the old, to the in-between. I know, given the demographic, that the country could benefit from my service as a Prime Minister. I do not see it at all as an entitlement, because I always considered that I had good fortune to serve the country as its 3rd Prime Minister for such a time like this one. For such a time like this one, I am just a passing through. And that is why, for me, to come to accept the wisdom in this, having been part of the political landscape for 26 years, I've seen it at its best, and I've seen it at its worst. And I know, and I am convinced, that this will serve the people of St. Kitts and Nevis very well. And that is why I am proud today to bring this with the support of every member of the cabinet, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the member for St. Christopher 8, our Minister of Agriculture, the member for St. Christopher 1 and Minister of Public Infrastructure, the member for number 4 and Minister of Tourism, the member for Nevis 9 and Minister, our Senior Minister, 10, the learned Attorney General, the Senator and the Ministry of Health, and the Deputy Speaker and Senator and the government side. All of us are in one accord, unanimous in the support. The question will be, is the 10 men in one so pervasive out there that none can rise to an occasion or the future? This bill, Mr. Speaker, is about ensuring the governance of our country is responsive and relevant to the needs of the people, and always strives to deliver a better future for them. Even interestingly, in communist Cuba, at some point in time, they recognized that this leader for life mentality that some people had was bad. They went and they brought a constitutional change in Cuba to limit the service of the president to 2 terms. Communist Cuba, 2 terms. And what were the reasons given? The need to encourage new leadership. The need to allow the next generation a fair opportunity, properly trained, properly apprenticed for leadership to make their country great. Yes, this legislation is about making sure that the office of the Prime Minister will always be a vibrant one of new and modern and healthy perspectives. Yes, no more do we want a leader for life. This legislation brings a sense of urgency to the person who is privileged to hold the office of Prime Minister. It's a privilege. It is an honor bestowed upon you, to the people's representatives, to do the best you can to be a model. And that is why I say, I will never carry the passport of another country while serving as the Prime Minister. It's incompatible that I could do that. I will never, Mr. Speaker, go and seek and beg and borrow a diplomatic passport of another country. I will never, while serving the country as its member of parliament. But there must be no doubt, no ambiguity, no ambivalence about which of the countries I am serving. Am I promoting St. Christopher and Nevis, or I am promoting the Commonwealth of Dominica or Antigua? Which of these 2 do you love more? That will always be in doubt. It's the question of divided loyalty. Can't come to be President of America without your credentials, right? You can't happen in Jamaica. And it must never happen in St. Kitts and Nevis that those who are conflicted, those who want the protection of another state, take their diplomatic passport to get immunity, could rise again in our country. They've already sold out. Can't happen. Magadam. That sounds like a Mogadam. So this is where we are. How serious you are about leading the country, so you devote all of your attention and energies to that country and its agenda. Yes, when leaders know they have a limited time to achieve for the people, they are incentivized to do the reforms. And those reforms, like this one, will only benefit the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes, this is what it is about. This bill further broadens the quality of democracy in our federation, as it means that leaders know that they are going to be held accountable by the people. This bill will assist with succession planning. The succession planning that proved impossible when Dr. Neville Duncan came to St. Kitts to do a facilitation and had to give up. This is what it does. And it is amazing that those who in 2012 wanted to die in their boots, still 7 years after, want to die in their boots some more. And they have not put again in stream the issue of succession planning, because it is leader for life. Because there's a view that, like Mugabe, and Mugabe was a great leader when he started, did a lot of reforms, did a lot of good things, and over time diminished himself. So what people remember now is not the virtuous Mugabe, the patriot at heart for Zimbabwe. It's the man who died in a foreign land, came back home, and you had confusion. That is not a good way to go. Saddam and all of them went that way. So we want to move forward. We only have to look to see how, when political leaders become so insecure, what they do to good leadership in the parties becomes scarce. So that when they are gone, the parties languish forever and for a very long time. We hope that this bill will give hope to young, talented people whom will be assured that our country accepts that they can play a role at the highest level. Having strong governance matters because it instills confidence in our people and in our country. As we have seen in almost 5 short years, confidence in the community matters because it leads, of course, to greater investment. It results in more jobs, more opportunities for our people, in particular the young people. Confidence leads to people engaging more with their community and with each other in helping to build a strong nation. And this, in the end, is what the legislation is about. How do we make St. Kitts and Nevis better? As confidence draws the tourists and the citizens of other countries to our land they don't want to go, they feel secure, knowing that on the good governance agenda, the rule of law index, St. Kitts and Nevis is #1, lends confidence to those who come and who want to holiday and who want to do business here. That is why we can boast for the second tourist season in a row, we have over 1 million visitors. That is good for our country. It is the good governance agenda. It is the bringing to bear of steps that have led to the reduction of crime as part of our efforts at good governance. Yes, this legislation, importantly, is about team unity, keeping our word to the electorate and returning the trust that they have put in us. Team unity believes that when you make a promise, you keep it. Not just on this, but as on many things as possible. Truth be told, no government will have a 100% scorecard. It doesn't happen anywhere. But on most things we have done. You flip the cover of the Team Unity manifesto and you see what we promised. Tick that one. Pay back the sugar workers their $16 million. Deny them. Tick that one. That promise has been kept. Pay off the IMF the $117 million debt left by the former administration. Tick that one. We have done that. We say that we will come up with a poverty alleviation support to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis who were traumatized by heavy taxes and an onerous VAT at 17% by the former administration. Take that one. We have kept faith in that. They said it couldn't be done, and now it's being done. They don't know how to respond. Take removal of that from food, from medicines, from educational supply. We have done that. Almost every area in which we have highlighted, there are about 6, 7 things. Yes? You have your manifesto, Wendy? You help author it? Can you just look at it? What we have promised. I want to say it's a track record of delivery. Yes. One, but this is the side I like. $500 family support for household earning $3,000. Team Unity did that. We will guarantee programs like PEP will continue. We have done that. That is why on the 13th of December, among those who will benefit from the double salary are the PEP workers. But we went on to say we will upgrade it to step up so young people can have real opportunities for self-employment, appropriate training for permanent jobs, and earn a decent living. That is why we have what? $800,000 set aside to do with skills training with respect to the STEP program, to put our people at a better place. The Honorable Premier remind me no VAT and food, medicine, and education. Third bullet on the cover. And what was the heading? Key Team Unity policies at a glance. These were some of the fundamental things. Creation of over 2,000 new jobs. We got over 3,000 according to the Social Security. Prompt payment of overdue 16 million gratuity still left in by the former administration. We have done that. Housing assistance, we have done that to near 3,000 people. Various intervention, reduction in the market payment for NHC houses. Minister Hamilton has done that, starting at 2%, going as high as 5%, all the way down from Labour's 10% on the mortgage. That is what we have done. Education Guarantee Fund to underwrite university costs. Well, we have started that. Scholarships, the largest number, over 300 of them being supported by the administration. 50 teachers being given assistance to pursue master's program. Never before been done. So we are keeping faith with the people. Page 42. He wants me to look at something there. Show me what you want me to look at while we're still at it. You want me to show that this is not something new. Introduce legislation, limit the term of any one individual serving as Prime Minister to 2 terms. Another promise made, and a promise, yes, we are now looking at. This is a sterling record. This is about excellence. This is about service to St. Kitts and Nevis. And this is about taking our country forward. So I am happy, Mr. Speaker, that we are working, and we have been hard at work, cleaning up the mess left behind, realigning the government, protecting the vulnerable people in our country, and of course, working on both a prosperity agenda and a good governance agenda. good governance agenda, of which this was a critical part, is now, as it were, being given a boost. So, Mr. Speaker, with the support of the Cabinet, we present this bill to the Honourable House, ask for the support in taking this historic bit of legislation forward so that the democracy can be protected and enhanced, and a new era of good governance will now be part of the new dispensation in St. Kitts and Nevis. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.